Here we look at the effects of exercise duration and intensity on modes of energy consumption. We'll consider three specific but very different running scenarios: a 20-second sprint, a 2-minute hard run, and a marathon. In each of the three graphs, time is plotted on the x-axis and percent energy consumption totaling 100% on the y-axis. And for each of these, that simply means that if we total the various modes of ATP production that power the event, the total is always going to be 100%. Okay, let's look at the 20-second sprint. For the 20-second sprint, we have a fast and furious event. The runner is sprinting as hard and as fast as possible till crossing the finish line. ATP demand, very, very high. We need a lot of ATP, and we need it very quickly to power this sprint. Where does the energy come from? Well, at the beginning, especially, we have energy coming from high-energy phosphate molecules found in the cytoplasm. That would be stored ATP and creatine phosphate. Those were previously produced, stored in the cytoplasm or sarcoplasm, waiting for use, and available to have their phosphates broken away, energy released to power some sort of activity. The problem with these is that their supplies are limited, so they become depleted by about 20 seconds. So as they begin to dwindle, we start to shift our emphasis to glycolytic ATP production. That's right, glycolysis is anaerobic. It occurs in the cytoplasm or sarcoplasm. ATP yield is high, but we have to start with glucose. We cannot start with fatty acids or anything else. It's got to be glucose. But we can certainly produce enough ATP quickly enough to complete that sprint. Let's switch to the 2-minute hard run. A 2-minute hard run is a difficult race. The ATP demand is still high. Maybe not as high as on a second-by-second basis as the sprint, but it's still high. Where's the energy going to come from? Well, as before, we start with stored ATP and creatine phosphate. We can power that run for the first 20 seconds or so with that. Then we go to glycolysis. But with the 2-minute run, we finally have time to produce ATP aerobically via carbohydrate breakdown. In other words, the pyruvic acids produced as a product of glycolysis now are able to enter the Krebs cycle, and the offshoots of that going to the electron transport chain to produce ATP aerobically. Finally, the marathon, a very complex event. Marathons last 2, 3, sometimes more hours. To get all that time in a reasonably sized graph, we put a break in the graph right here. That simply shows that we've removed a certain amount of time. There's been no real change from before the break to after the break, so it really is insignificant that way. Our ATP demand for the marathon is going to vary. With the course, like for example, if there are hills to be pulled, or if the runner changes pace, or whatever the case may be, ATP demand is going to vary. The sources of that ATP, though, just like previously, ATP stored in the cytoplasm, also creatine phosphate, backed up by glycolysis. But in a long-distance run like the marathon, ample opportunity to produce ATP aerobically. Aerobic carbohydrate breakdown aerobic fat breakdown. The ratios of those affected by the level of training of the individual and exercise intensity. Highly trained runners can break down fats more quickly and effectively than untrained athletes can. If there's a part of the course that's especially demanding, the carbohydrate use is going to shift up relative to the fats. Ultimately, if the runner runs out of glycogen supplies, now we can't produce ATP from breakdown of carbohydrate, you have to go to fat. That's when the person reaches the bonk and it may be difficult to conclude the run.